Hello everyone and welcome back to our channel. My name is Malescu and I am the owner of Malescu Law, a law firm based in Miami, Florida, specializing in business, corporate and US immigration. We can assist you with all your immigration needs regardless of where you are currently located or where you plan to go in the United States. Today we are going to speak about tips for understanding the Visa Bulletin in order to obtain an immigrant visa, or in other words, a green card. But before we get started, please subscribe to our channel by clicking the bell button or the subscribe button. As a quick reminder, the Visa Bulletin is a monthly publication issued by the US Department of State, which is published each month during the first 2 weeks of each month and contains a report about the availability of immigrant visa in order for you to obtain your green card or an immigrant visa to come in the United States as a permanent resident. Now, for those of you who are planning to obtain permanent residency in the United States through consular processing, meaning by having your petition, your case, the basis for your green card, sent to a US consulate abroad, where you will be invited for an interview and where you will have an interview for your immigrant visa and obtain your immigrant visa in order to come to the United States and be admitted as a permanent resident. For those of you, when you check the Visa Bulletin for consular processing, in the Visa Bulletin you will use the chart for dates for filing. And this is the case for all of you who are processing your immigrant visa through the US consulates abroad. When you are trying to determine whether your priority date is current and when should you expect an interview date, you will always use the dates for filing chart, whether you are in a family-based immigrant petition category or in an employment-based immigrant petition category, including the EB-5 investment-based immigrant category. After you locate the dates for filing chart for your specific category, then you will also have to look at your country of chargeability. And you will see in those charts that you have different cutoff dates for those of you who are filing under the country of chargeability for China, India, Mexico, and the Philippines. Now, once you locate the dates for filing chart and your country of chargeability under your specific category, then you will compare the priority date that is listed on the USCIS Notice of Action I-797. That will be your receipt date. So you will compare the receipt date for your USCIS notice with the date that is listed in that specific dates for filing chart for your country of chargeability in your category. If the priority date is before the date listed in the chart, then your case will be proceeding with obtaining an interview at the US consulate for your immigrant visa. If, however, your priority date is after the cutoff date that is listed in the chart, then your case is basically not being processed, is being put on hold, and there's no immigrant visa available for you at that time, and you will simply have to wait until the cutoff date in the dates for filing chart for your category and your country of chargeability moves in order for you to be able to have an interview and have your immigrant visa available for processing. Now, for those of you who are planning to apply for adjustment of status and obtain your green card through an adjustment of status in the United States through the United States Citizenship and Immigration Services, you will also need to use the Visa Bulletin published by the Department of State in order to determine when your priority date is current, so you can actually file your adjustment of status application with USCIS. In other words, if you have an immigrant petition approved, you cannot file your adjustment of status at any time. You will need to use the Visa Bulletin from the Department of State in order to determine when you can actually file the adjustment of status in order to obtain your green card through adjustment. However, the situation and how to read the Visa Bulletin is more complicated with adjustment of status applications. So, once you have an immigrant visa petition approved from the United States Citizenship and Immigration Services, and you know you are not going to obtain your immigrant visa through consular processing, and you will not be interviewing abroad, and you are in the United States, and you plan to apply for adjustment of status while you are in the United States, then you will need to check the Visa Bulletin from the Department of State to determine when you can actually file the adjustment of status application. And for each visa category, so family-based immigrant petitions or employment-based immigrant petition, including the EB-5 investment-based immigrant petitions, there are two charts that are listed on the Visa Bulletin for any specific month. One is called Final Action Dates chart, and the second one is called Dates for Filing chart. Now, if you are an applicant for adjustment of status or you plan to apply for adjustment of status, you will need to determine which of these two charts you need to use for that specific month in order to determine if your priority date is current and you can actually file your adjustment of status application. To determine for a specific month which of these two charts to use in any of the categories, so family-based or employment-based, including immigrant investment petitions, you will also need to check another website, a USCIS website, and specifically something that is called the USCIS Visa Bulletin. This USCIS Visa Bulletin webpage tells you which of the two charts you need to use for that specific month in order to determine when you can file your adjustment of status application. Below this video, we are going to link all the relevant pages that you need in order to determine when you can file your adjustment of status application. So we are going to provide a link for the Visa Bulletin from the Department of State, but also a link to the USCIS Visa Bulletin, which tells you for a specific month which of the two charts to use, whether you should use the Final Action Dates chart for your category or you should use the Dates for Filing chart for your category in order to determine if your priority date is current for you to file the adjustment of status application. So once you know which chart to use, then you are going to look for your specific category and that specific chart and your country of chargeability, and look at the dates that are listed in that chart. If the notice of action, your USCIS notice of action I-797 for your category, meaning the receipt date of that USCIS notice, which is your priority date, if that date is prior to the date listed in the chart for your country of chargeability and your category, then you can actually file your adjustment of status application. If, however, your priority date is after the date listed in the chart for your category and your country of chargeability, then you cannot file your adjustment of status petition with the United States Citizenship and Immigration Services, and you simply have to wait for the next Visa Bulletin to see if there are any movements. Once you determine that your priority date is current and you can file your adjustment of status application, and your adjustment of status application is properly filed with the United States Citizenship and Immigration Services, then the question becomes, well, when should you expect to have your adjustment of status application reviewed and approved by USCIS? Do you use the dates for filing chart, or do you use the final action dates chart? This is a very important question, and also it is a very important point to mention, a point that is often overlooked. So once you properly file your adjustment application, then in order to determine when should you expect your adjustment application to be approved, you only use the final action dates chart. So USCIS can approve your adjustment application only if your priority date is current based on the final action dates chart. So, for example, you can have a situation where in 1 month USCIS publishes that you need to use the dates for filing chart in order to be able to file your adjustment of status application, and your priority date is current based on that dates for filing chart, and you properly file your adjustment and you receive a USCIS notice that your adjustment of status was properly filed, and you have a receipt notice. Now, does that mean that USCIS is actually processing your adjustment of status application and you will soon receive an approval based on the USCIS review? Well, that is not the case. In order to determine when USCIS can actually approve your adjustment of status application once it was properly filed, you will have to look at the final action dates chart and your priority date from the USCIS Notice of Action I-797 and compare your priority date, which is the receipt date for your immigrant petition on the USCIS notice. You will need to use that priority date and compare it with the final action dates chart. And if that priority date is before the final action dates chart, the date listed in the final action dates chart for your category and your country of chargeability, then USCIS can process and actually approve in that specific month or any other month, but it is subject to constant processing and can be approved at any time, your adjustment of status application. But if, however, the date is after the date listed in the final action dates chart, then USCIS cannot actually go ahead and approve the application for adjustment of status, and you will have to wait for the next Visa Bulletin to be published and see if there are any movements. So while you have two options to determine, you have two charts that are used to determine whether you can file an application for adjustment of status with USCIS, and you use the USCIS Visa Bulletin to determine which chart to use for the purpose of filing your adjustment application. Once your adjustment has been filed, the only chart that is used in order to determine when USCIS can actually approve your adjustment is the final action dates chart. This is all for today. Thank you so much for watching. Please subscribe to our channel, and if you need to get in touch with us, you have our contact information in this video and below this video. We will see you soon. Bye.